Hello students, this is your English teacher Ms. Richa Dubey from Ambuja Public School, posting my video on the first chapter, The Best Christmas Present in the World, from your main English reader Honeydew. So let's start this chapter, The Best Christmas Present in the World. This chapter tells us about the feelings of the soldiers, that why they are fighting as a duty for their country, but actually they want peace. They don't want these battles and wars. So through this story, the author has beautifully depicted the mindset of the soldiers and the results and the consequences of the wars. So let's start this chapter. I spotted it in a junk shop in Bridport, a roll-top desk. Now, the author, I, is the narrator. So the narrator, he wanted to purchase a roll-top desk and he found this roll-top desk in a junk shop. Now, what is a junk shop? A junk shop is a shop where the old worn-off things are resold. So, Bridport is the name of a place. So, the narrator is writing that he found a roll-top desk in one of the junk shop in Bridport, and he said that it belonged to 19th century, and the material used, that means the wood used in that roll-top desk, was oak. The wood was of oak tree. I had wanted one, but they were far too expensive. He said that I wanted to purchase a roll-top desk, but it was very expensive. So he did not buy, and he was searching for the roll-top desk which he could afford. Now this roll-top desk which he found in the junk shop was in a very bad condition. The roll-top was in several pieces, and one leg was clumsily mended. That means it was already broken and it was repaired, but that repairing was very clumsy. Now, scotch marks all down one side, and there were burnt marks. Scotch marks means burnt marks all down one side. And he was getting that roll-top desk in a very little money, so he thought it's good. He would repair it, restore, repair. So he said that he would repair it, and so he purchased that roll-top desk in a very less amount. He knew that it would be a risk, a challenge. Now, purchasing an old, worn-off, damaged roll-top desk, just thinking that he would be able to repair it, was a risk and a challenge. But he said, no, I'm going to purchase it and I'm going to do it. I will repair it. And he paid the shopkeeper, and he brought that roll-top desk in his workroom, and at the back of the garage he kept it. And it was Christmas Eve. Now Christmas Eve is evening before Christmas. That means 24th evening, 24th of December evening time it was. And he started to work on it. He wanted to repair, so he started to work on this roll-top desk. I removed the roll-top completely and pulled out the drawers. So the roll-top, he took it out completely, and he pulled out the drawers from there. The veneer. Now veneer, what is veneer? Veneer is that thin layer which is stuck on above the furniture. The veneer had lifted almost everywhere. Now veneer, that sheet had already was out of the furniture from all everywhere. It looked like water damage to me. Both fire and water had clearly taken their toll on this desk. Now both water and fire had taken. That means the desk was damaged both by fire and water also. The last drawer was stuck fast. That means fire and water together. How? It means that probably the roll-top desk had caught fire, and due to water. Now whenever there is a house on fire, what happens? The fire brigade, it sprinkles water on it so that the fire could be extinguished. So the roll-top desk was damaged due to fire and water both. Now the last drawer was stuck fast, and he tried to just take it out, but he could not manage. So he applied brute force, strong force he applied to bring it out, and suddenly what happened? It came out, flew open to reveal a shallow space. It flew open means suddenly it came out with great force. And what did he see? That there was a shallow space underneath. There was a secret drawer in that drawer. There was something in there. And in that drawer, there was another secret drawer. And in that secret drawer also, there was something. So he just took out, he just opened that secret drawer and he saw that there was a small black tin box. And on that tin box, there was sellotaped lined notepaper. A piece of lined notepaper was sellotaped on that small black tin box. And what was written on that lined notepaper? Jim's last letter received January 25, 1915. So it was written on that. Lined paper, which was sellotaped on the black tin box, was Jim's last letter. Jim's last letter means after that, Jim's letter was not received by the writer. Received January 25th, 1915. 25th of January 1915. So that means this was the time of Second World War. To be buried with me when the time comes. So the person who had written on the black tin box, that person had written that it was Jim's last letter, which was received on 25th of January 1915, and that letter should be buried with her when the time comes. I knew as I did it that it was wrong of me to open the box, but curiosity got the better of my scruples. Now he said that it's a bad manners. Okay, it is a very bad manners to open anyone's letter. But here he's saying curiosity got the better of my scruples. Now what is scruples? Scruples are the feelings which stop you from doing something wrong. Okay, which makes you hesitate to do something wrong. Now here he's saying curiosity got the better of my scruples. It means that curiosity was dominating his scruples. He knew it was wrong to read someone's letter, but his curiosity was so dominant that he just forgot about his scruples and he said, no, I will read what is there in the letter. Now inside the box there was an envelope. The address read Mrs. Jim Macpherson, 12 Copper Beeches, Bridport, Dorset. Now inside the box there was an envelope. The address read Mrs. Jim Macpherson. So what was there was a letter inside that black tin box, and on that letter what was the address? It was Mrs. Jim Macpherson. And if you have read that on the tin box it was written Jim's last letter. So that means Jim had written the letter to Mrs. Jim, that means to his wife. And the address was 12 Copper Beeches, Bridport, Dorset. I took out the letter and unfolded it. It was written in pencil and dated at the top 26 December 1914, when the Second World War was going on. Now this second section is the content of the letter written by Jim to his wife Mrs. Jim. So second section is only the content of the letter, which is in direct speech. Dearest Connie, I write to you in much happier frame of mind. Now Connie is Mrs. Jim Macpherson. Letter is written by Jim to his wife Mrs. Jim, whose name was Connie. So here Jim is writing, Dearest Connie, I write to you in much happier frame of mind because something wonderful has just happened that I must tell you about at once. Now he is writing that something wonderful has happened with us, and I wanted to share it with you, and that is why I am writing this letter to you. We were all standing in our trenches. Now what are trenches? Trenches are long deep ditches where the soldiers are hiding themselves. So if here also that all the borders, there they have made trenches, and the soldiers, they just hide there from the enemy. So Jim is writing that we were standing in our trenches yesterday morning, Christmas morning. So it was 25th of December. It was morning and they all were standing in their trenches, and it was Christmas Day. It was crisp and quiet all about. Crisp means very cold. Crispy means very cold. And quiet all about, and everywhere there was silence. As beautiful a morning as I have ever seen. And obviously it was a festival day, so it was it was giving a very good feeling to all of them because it was a festival. So, as beautiful morning as I ever seen, as cold and frosty as a Christmas morning should be. So it was very cold. Now Christmas, December, so cold. Okay, frost and cold. I should like to be able to tell you that we began it. But the truth I am ashamed to say is that Fritz began it. Now, Jim is writing that I should have been very happy if I would have written that we began it, but actually truth is that I am ashamed to say that we did not begin. It was the Fritz who began it. First, someone saw a white flag waving from the trenches opposite. First, someone saw a white flag waving from the trenches opposite. So, a person. Now, Fritz. Who are Fritz? Fritz is a very common name for a German person. If any German person you find or meets. Okay, so if you don't know the name, you can call him Fritz. In the same manner, Tommy. Tommy is a common English name referred for Britishers. If any British tourist is there and you don't know his name, so you can call him Tommy. So Fritz are Germans and Tommies are Britishers. So first someone saw a white flag waving from the trenches opposite. Then they were calling out to us from across no man's land. Now what is no man's land? No man's land is the land which is left by both the countries. Okay, wherever their border is, they leave. So that is no man's land. They belong to no one. Both the countries have to leave some space between their borders. So then they were calling out to us from across no man's land, Happy Christmas, Tommy, Happy Christmas. Now soldiers, they don't know each other, but they know that the other army is of British. So they called Happy Christmas, Tommy. When we had got over the surprise, some of us shouted back, Same to you, Fritz, same to you. Now, see, when it's a festival time, no, our mood is something else. We forget about the enmity and everything, and we just try to celebrate the festival. So the one of the German man, he told Happy Christmas, Tommy. So one of the person from Jim's army also replied that same to you, Fritz. I thought that would be that. We all did. But then suddenly one of them was up there in his grey greatcoat and waving a white flag. So Jim was the captain of his army. So he thought that only wishing is means only they are wishing. So let not go in deep. But then suddenly one of the army man of Germans, he came out in his grey greatcoat and waving, and he waved a white flag. Now what does white flag symbolize? Peace. White flag symbolizes peace. Don't shoot, lads, someone shouted. And then someone, they were ready, okay, maybe it's a trick. So he was ready, they were ready, but then someone shouted, don't shoot lads. Lads are boy. Lad is a boy. Lads are boys. Don't shoot lads, someone shouted, and no one did. Then there was another Fritz up on the parapet and another. Keep your heads down. I told the man, it's a trick, but it wasn't. Now the captain, he has to be very cautious. He said, don't keep your heads out. Okay, it may be a trick. The moment we will be out, they may shoot us. One of the Germans was waving a bottle above his head. It's a Christmas day, Tommy. We have schnapps, we have sausage. Now, they did not have any weapon in their hands, and they had a bottle and they had schnapps and sausage. And they said that it's a Christmas day, Tommy, and we have schnapps and we have sausage and we meet you. Yes. So they said, okay, forget about this war and all. Today is Christmas day, so let's just enjoy and celebrate the Christmas, and we have drinks and we have food items with us, so let's meet. By this time there were dozens of them walking towards us. Now first one man was out. Now most of the army men, they were coming towards them, and they did not have a rifle with them. Little Private Morris, one of the soldier, he came, he just got up from the British army, and then he said, come on boys, what are we waiting for? So he said, come on, they are coming for enjoying, celebrating Christmas, and what are we waiting for? Why can't we be out? And then there was no stopping them. I was the officer. I should have stopped them there and there, I suppose. But the truth is that it never even occurred to me I should. Now he said that I was in charge, I was the main officer, and I should have stopped them. No, no. But even I did not feel like stopping them. And everyone, they went and meet each other. And they were, the Britishers were in khaki coats and the Germans were in grey coats. And all the grey coats and khaki coats were meeting in the middle. And in the middle of the war, we were making peace. Now, it's really surprising that it's a war time and forgetting about the war, celebrating Christmas by both the armies. Okay, that also enemies. Okay, because if they are fighting war against each other, they are enemies. But in the middle of the war, we were making peace. You cannot imagine, dearest Connie, my feelings as I looked into the eyes of the Fritz officer who approached me, hand outstretched. Hans Wolf, he said, gripping my hand warmly and holding it. I am from Dusseldorf. I play the cello in the orchestra. Happy Christmas. Now, you cannot imagine, dearest Connie, my feelings as I looked into the eyes of the Fritz officer who approached me, hand outstretched. Henceforth, gripping my hand warmly and holding it. I am Dusseldorf. So the Fritz officer, his name was Hans Wolf, and he just introduced himself that I am from Dusseldorf. And before coming in the war, I used to play cello in the orchestra. And then he wished Happy Christmas. Captain Jim Macpherson, I replied, and a happy Christmas to you too. I am a school teacher from Dorset in the west of England. And then Jim introduced himself that I am Captain Jim Macpherson and a Merry Christmas to you too. And I am a school teacher from Dorset in the west of England. Now, see, children, during World War, what happens? Our army people are not enough to fight the battles. So, during World Wars, what happens? They tell from each family they have to send one person and then they give them training to be a soldier in the army. Ah, Dorset. So Jim Macpherson introduced himself that he is from Dorset, and then Hans Wolf said, "Oh, wow, Dorset. I know this place. I know it very well. We shared my rum ration and his excellent sausage." And both the armies and Hans Wolf and Jim Macpherson, they shared their ration food items, drinks, everything. And we talked, Connie, how we talked. He spoke almost perfect English. And he's writing. Now, Jim is actually, this is the part of letter. So he's writing, Connie, we talked to each other and, he spoke perfect English. He was a German, but English he spoke very well. But it turned out that he had never set foot in Dorset. But he said that when I asked him, he said, "Oh, I have never went to Dorset. Never been to England also. But I know a lot about England from my school and from reading books in English." And then Hans Wolf told that his favorite writer was Thomas Hardy. His favorite book was Far from the Madding Crowd. And so in No Man's Land, they were talking about Bathsheba, Gabriel Oak, and Sergeant Troy and Dorset. So everything they were discussing. And Hans Wolf also told that he had a wife and one son, born just 6 months ago. Now see, children, this is actually telling us how soldiers sacrifice their lives. Okay, he had just one small son of 6 months and he has not even seen his child's face, and he's there in the battlefield fighting for his country. As I looked about me, there were huddles of khaki and grey everywhere, all over No Man's Land, smoking, laughing, talking, drinking, eating. Now, No Man's Land, as I told you, it doesn't belong to any of the country. That is the land. That is why it is called No Man's Land. So both the army people, they came there on No Man's Land. They were smoking, dancing, laughing, talking, drinking, eating, everything they were doing, and they were enjoying their Christmas. Both grey coats and khaki coats. Hans Wolf and I shared what was left of your wonderful Christmas cake, Connie. And then he's writing that, Connie, the wonderful Christmas cake which you had sent, now that we have shared. And he thought the marzipan was the best he had ever tasted. And the marzipan is a sweet covering on a cake which is made from sugar and eggs and almonds. So he told Hans Wolf appreciated that marzipan, so which was prepared by Connie. And Jim wrote that we agreed about everything and still we were enemies. That see, enemies are who do not agree to each other. But here they are saying that we agreed about everything, but still we were enemies. Why? Because they were fighting for their countries. There never was a Christmas party like it, Connie. Now Jim is writing that that Christmas party was the best, and I have never seen such Christmas party before. Then someone, I don't know who, brought out a football. Great coats were dumped in piles to make goalposts, and the next thing we knew, it was Tommy against Fritz out in the middle of no man's land. Hans Wolf and I looked on and cheered, clapping our hands and stamping our feet to keep out the cold as much as anything. Now, both the teams, both the armies, they decided to play a football match, and what they did, they made goalposts by dumping and piling their greatcoats on both the sides, and they started the match of football on no man's land. Now, Hans Wolf and Jim, both of them, they were very happy. They were clapping their hands and they were stamping their feet to keep the cold away from them. There was a moment when I noticed our breaths mingling in the air between us. Now, if this, it's a beautiful scene, children. When you are during winters, when you speak, suppose you and your friend are standing in front of each other and you are talking. So, due to extreme cold, what happens when you're speaking? The air comes out of your mouth, and sometimes the air which is coming out of your mouth and the breath of your person standing in front of you, both those breaths mingle in the air. He saw it too and smiled. Jim Macpherson, he said after a while, I think this is how we should resolve this war. A football match. No one dies in a football match. No children are orphaned. No wives become widows. Now, both of them were appreciating and admiring and seeing the match and enjoying the match, and then suddenly they said that Jim, I think that we can resolve the war by a football match, and if we are playing a football match, it will not be very helpful because no one dies in a football match and no children will become orphan and no wives will become widows. So why not to resolve conflicts through football match instead of fighting against each other? Then Jim said, "Oh, I'd prefer cricket. Then we Tommies could be sure of winning probably." And Jim said that, "Oh, I would prefer to have a cricket match, not a football match, and because we are sure of winning." Then we laughed at that, and together we watched the game. Sad to say. Sad to say, Connie, Fritz won 2-1, but as Hansful generously said, our goal was wider than theirs, so it wasn't quite fair. Now, Jim said that, Connie, I'm very sad to say, but we lost the match and Fritz won 2-1. The score was 2-1. The time came, and then it was time to go back to their own areas because the food has finished, the sausages, the schnapps, the ram, everything was over. And they both, Hans Wolf and Jim, they just wished well to each other and told him I hoped he would see his family again soon. Jim told that I wish you see your family soon again because see, on the battlefield you never know whether you'll be alive or not. But still they can wish. So Jim wished Hans well and told that I wish you may see your family soon and the fighting would end and we could all go home. Now it's all over and now we should go to our homes and forget about all these things, fighting and all. I think that is what every soldier wants on both sides, Hansel said. Hansel said, yes. See, this is very important line, children. I think that is what every soldier wants. What they want? Peace. They want to go back to their families on both sides. Take care, Jim Macpherson. I shall never forget this moment, nor you. He saluted and walked away from me slowly, unwillingly. I felt. He turned to wave just once and then became one of the hundreds of grey-coated men drifting back towards their trenches. That night, back in our dugouts, we heard them singing a carol and singing it quite beautifully. Now, in the night, both the armies were back in their own trenches and the Germans, the Fritz, they were singing carols. Now, during Christmas time, they sing carols. Now, carols are actually hymns which are sung during Christmas days, Christmas to New Year time. In the evening, they sing carols and singing it quite beautifully. Now, the carols which they were singing were Still Nashe, that is Silent Night, and they were exchanging carols. They were exchanging carols means first the Germans were singing, then they were following, the Britishers were following them, then the Britishers were singing and the Germans were following them. So the Germans sang the carol Still Nashe, and the Britishers, the Tommies, sang While Shepherds Watched. These are the names of the carols. We exchanged carols for a while and then we all fell silent, and then they were exhausted and so all of them slept. We had had a time of peace and goodwill, a time I will treasure as long as I live. Now, Jim said that it was a marvelous Christmas. I had never ever celebrated in this manner, and it was such a nice time of peace and goodwill. A time I will treasure as long as I live, and that time I will treasure as long as I live. I will never forget this time. Now, dearest Connie, by Christmas time next year, this war will be nothing but a distant and terrible memory. I know from all that had happened today how much both armies long for peace. We shall be together again soon, I am sure of it. Now, this last paragraph is very important, children. What he is writing is that by Christmas time next year, this war will be nothing but a distant and terrible memory. That means the war will end and it will be nothing but a distant and terrible memory. I know from all that happened today how much both armies long for peace. He said that both the armies wanted peace. They don't want war. They want peace and they want to go back to their families. We shall be together again soon, I am sure of it. We shall be together again soon, I am sure of it. Now, he is not ending the letter with a sad note or a negative note. Okay, because it's very difficult for the family members of soldiers, because every time they have the fear, God knows what will happen. God knows what will happen. May God save our person. May God save our husband. May God save our father. So he did not want to say, don't know whether we will meet or this may be my last letter. Nothing like that. Okay, he is making her feel optimistic that we shall be together again soon, I am sure of it. He is saying that I am very sure that these wars are going to end and we will be together again soon. Your loving Jim. Now, this second portion was completely the content of the letter which was written by Jim to Mrs. Jim, that is Connie. Mrs. Jim Macpherson, that is Connie. Now we come to the third section of this chapter, the third part of this chapter. Again, back to the narrator. Now, after reading the letter, the narrator folded it and slipped it carefully back into its envelope. He woke all night because it touched his heart, and then he decided that I will go and give this letter to the owner, that is Mrs. Jim Macpherson. I drove into Bridport, just a few miles away. And the Bridport, as the address was written on the letter, so he went there to Bridport. He went to Copper Beaches, and then he saw house number 12, which was nothing but a burned out shell. The roof gaping, the windows boarded up. That means the condition of the house was very terrible and horrible. Everything was destroyed. The house was burnt, the roof was gaping, it means there was no roof on it, and the windows were all out of the house, they were boarded up. I knocked at the house next door and asked if anyone knew the whereabouts of a Mrs. Macpherson. Now, he just asked the people, neighbors, and then he said, can anyone tell me where is Mrs. Macpherson? Oh yes, said the old man in his slippers. He knew her well. A lovely old lady, he told me, a bit muddle-headed, but at her age she was entitled to be. Wasn't she? Now, one of the neighbor, he said, yes, I know Mrs. Macpherson. She's a very old lady and but she's a bit muddle-headed. Muddle-headed means confused. So she's at this age, naturally the person will be muddle-headed. 101 years old. So what was her age? Her age was 101 years old. And then this neighbor told that she has become a bit muddle-headed, and when she was in the house it got fire, and how the house got fire no one knows, but it is assumed that she never used it. She did not like using electricity. She used to use candles, or maybe because of the candles the house might have caught fire. Now the firemen had got her out just in time, and she was so muddle-headed that she couldn't even bring herself out when the house caught fire, and it was the firemen who was able to bring her out just in time. And now she was shifted to nursing home, which was the name of the nursing home was Burlington House on the Dorchester Road on the other side of town. So he gave her address also, that you can go to Burlington House on the Dorchester Road on the other side of the town. Now on the next last section, the narrator went to Burlington House nursing home easily enough. There were paper chains up in the hallway and a lighted Christmas tree. Why? Because it was 25th of December, that means Christmas Day. So anyways, he found out that nursing home, Burlington Nursing House Nursing Home, and then when he reached there, he saw that the whole house was decorated with paper chains up in the hallway, and a lighted Christmas tree stood in the corner with a lopsided angle on top. And the Christmas tree during Christmas, Christmas tree is kept. It's a tradition. And English people, they keep Christmas tree. They decorate it with beautiful gifts, lights, and sweets and chocolates, and they just decorate it and keep it in their house. I said I was a friend come to visit Mrs. Macpherson to bring her a Christmas present, and I said that I was Mrs. Macpherson's friend and I have come to give her a present. I could see through into the dining room where everyone was wearing a paper hat and singing. Now he saw in the drawing room of that nursing home, and everyone was enjoying Christmas, and they were wearing paper hats and they were singing. And the matron is in charge of the nursing home. So the matron had a hat on too. She was also wearing a hat, and she seemed very happy to see him. Why? Because probably it was the first time that someone had come to meet Mrs. Macpherson. She even offered me a mince pie. Now, mince pie is a sort of small cake, you can say. She walked me along the corridor. So when he told that he had come to meet Mrs. Macpherson, so everyone was dancing in the hall, but Mrs. Macpherson was not there. So the matron said, "Okay, come, I'll take you to her." And then both of them, when they were walking along the corridor, the matron told to the narrator, "Mrs. Macpherson is not in with the others. She told me she's rather confused today, so we thought it best if she had a good rest." So matron told that Mrs. Macpherson is not with the other people because today she is rather confused. So we thought it best if she had a good rest. So she said that actually she's not in a good condition. So we thought it is good to give her a rest, and that is why she is in her room. She has no family, no one visits. So I'm sure she'll be only too pleased to see you. And matron said, no one comes to meet her. So when she will see you, she will be very happy. And then the matron took the narrator to a conservatory with wicker chairs and potted plants all around and left me. The old lady was sitting in a wheelchair. Now, who is this old lady? This old lady is Mrs. Macpherson, or you can say Connie. So she was sitting on a wheelchair. Actually, 101 years old lady was supposed to be sitting on a wheelchair only because she was too old and weak. Her hands folded in her lap. She had silver white hair pinned into a wispy bun. Wispy, as you can see in the picture, she had made a bun, and silver white hair. Okay, silver. You must have seen English people. Their hair are very shining, silver color. So, pinned into a wispy bun, she was gazing out at the garden. She was sitting in the conservatory and looking outside, gazing outside into the garden. "Hello," I said. She turned and looked up at me vacantly. "Happy Christmas, Connie," I went on. And then The narrator said hello, and then he wished her happy Christmas. And then he gave the letter to her, and he said that I found this letter of yours, and I think it's yours. Now, as I was speaking, her eyes never left my face. Now, as he was telling this about the letter in that black tin box, she was continuously looking towards the narrator. He opened the tin box and gave the letter to her, and that was the moment her eyes lit up with recognition. And the moment she saw the letter, my God, her eyes just lit up with recognition, and her face became suffused with a sudden glow of happiness. And her face was full of happiness. She was so excited, and she became so happy when she saw the letter. And then he told the whole story. The narrator told about the desk, that how he went into the junk shop and how he found a roll top desk, and then there was a secret drawer in it, and then he tried to take out the drawer. Everything, he told the whole story. Then this letter was there. Suddenly she reached out and took my hand. Her eyes were filled with tears. Now he told the whole story, but as if she was not listening. He told the whole story, but it seems as if she was not listening to the story. Suddenly she reached out and took my hand. Her eyes were filled with tears. You told me you'd come home by Christmas, dearest, and here you are, the best Christmas present in the world. Come closer, Jim dear, sit down. Now, what happened was that the narrator is telling the whole story, that see, this way it happened. I went to the junk shop, I bought a roll top desk, and then there was a letter in it, and then I went to that place in Bridport, and then I came to know that you are not there. So I thought that I should give this letter to you. He's telling the whole story, but she is continuously looking and gazing and staring the narrator with the letter in his hand. And then her eyes were filled with tears. And you know what she said? She said that you told now that you will come by Christmas, and see, today is Christmas. So you are the best Christmas present in the world. Come closer, Jim dear, sit down. It means what? Now she was 101 years old, so she was muddle-headed. She was in a confused state. And she thought that in Jim's letter, Jim had written that we will meet soon. So she was expecting that Jim will come. But most probably Jim had died, because it was written Jim's last letter. After that, Jim's letter did not come. That means he had probably died in the war. But because of his last line, that we will soon meet, so she was expecting that one day Jim will come. And when the narrator went with the letter, with Jim's letter in his hand, she thought him to be her husband Jim, and she was full of tears. Her eyes were full of tears, and she just caught hold of his hand and asked him to sit down and called him Jim. I sat down beside her, and she kissed my cheek. And she was so happy and excited that she kissed his cheek. And then, I read your letter so often, Jim, every day. I wanted to hear your voice in my heart. And what she's saying, that every day I used to read your letter, and then I wanted to hear your voice, and it always made me feel you were with me. And now you are. Now you're back. You can read it to me yourself. Now he said that, and I always used to feel that you are always with me. And see, now you're with me. You have come, you're sitting in front of me. So she was thinking the narrator to be Jim. Now you're back, you can read it to me yourself. And then now she's saying that now when you have returned, now please read the letter to me yourself. Would you do that for me, Jim dear? And then she's telling that, Jim, will you read this letter for me? I just want to hear your voice again. And then she said that I just wanted to hear your voice. I love that so much. I loved your voice so much, and I want you to read this letter because I want to hear your voice. And then perhaps we'll have some tea. I've made you a nice Christmas cake, marzipan all around. I know how much you love marzipan. And then she said that then we will have tea together. And I have made marzipan also. And because I know how much you love marzipan. So this was coming of Jim actually it was narrator, but she felt that he was her husband Jim, and that is why she felt that he was the best Christmas present in the world, because she was waiting for her husband Jim to come and celebrate Christmas with her. And when this narrator went with the letter, she thought him to be Jim, and then she said that you are the best Christmas present in the world. Now, in a way, this story is telling us about the family of soldiers, that how much they suffer. Now, husband died, but still she's waiting for her husband, that one day he will come. So, what the soldiers feel in the second section, as you see, every soldier wants to go back home, they want peace, they don't want to fight. Even their view is that the conflicts should be resolved through football match and not through wars. We should not be fighting. We should be resolving our conflicts through matches. And then the biggest benefit of football match will be there will be no death. No wife will become widow. No child will become orphan. And there will be peace everywhere. So, the soldiers, they don't want wars. The families of soldiers don't want wars. And the sufferings which the families go through, the pain they go through, that actually is highlighted in the story to tell us that why wars are so destructive and why wars should be avoided. So, this lesson has given us a lot of many lessons. Okay, the moral of the story is that we should try to avoid wars, and we should forget about the conflicts and should celebrate festivals together, as they were amidst a war, but still they celebrated the festival together, forgetting about all the conflicts, and they shared their schnapps, sausages, their cakes, and they played football match, they sang, they danced, they laughed, and they played a football match all together. So I hope, students, that you understood this chapter, and good day.